Eugene Victor Tooms returns. Mulder tries his damnedest to keep him locked up.
But when he is paroled, he and Scully take it upon themselves to make sure Tooms doesn't harm anyone ever again.
This is not happening.
Hello and welcome to This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast.
We have reviewed your reports, and frankly, we are quite displeased. Irregular procedure, untenable evidence, anonymous witnesses, inconclusive findings aggravated by vague opinion.
Sir, the very nature of the X-Files cases often precludes orthodox investigation.
Are you suggesting the Bureau adopt separate standards for you and Agent Mulder?
No, sir.
Are you suggesting Agent Mulder obstructs you from proper procedure?
No, sir. If anything, I'm suggesting that these cases be reviewed with an open mind.
Maybe your mind has become too open.
On X-Files cases investigated by Agent Mulder and myself to date, we have a conviction or case solution of 75%. That's well above the current Bureau standard.
And that is your only saving grace.
May I ask, sir, what more you require?
Welcome back, listeners of every kind, to the X-Files podcast that Mike and I are doing tonight. What do we call this one? This is not happening.
This is not happening. This intro's not happening.
Another X-Files podcast. This is not happening. Well, it's an intro. That's all you can say about it. But tonight, we are talking about Tooms, episode 21 in season 1, written by Glenn Morgan and James Wong.
Dream Team.
Directed by David Nutter, the Dream Team, one would say.
I was just going to say, you said episode 21. Ladies and gentlemen, we are this close to the end of season 1.
It's true.
I'm excited.
You want to hear the last 3 episodes, you got to pay $600. So...
This is the bad news portion of the podcast. If you would like to finish the season, you need to give us some money.
But we're cheap, so yeah. No, we are going to just keep on rolling right through, but this is the exciting sequel to the 3rd episode of season 1, Squeeze, with the antagonist that everybody loves to hate, Eugene Victor Tooms. So it's time to go back to the well. I guess the sequel was justified because Fox execs looked at the numbers and realized that it was a hit. Did you know, Mike, that the actor who portrays Eugene Victor Tooms, Doug Hutchison, actually penned his own sequel to the episode?
Did he? I did not know that.
He did. Yeah, after he had finished it, I guess he wanted to work again. So he wrote up a sequel and he mailed it off, but it was not opened for legal reasons, which is such a weird thing.
I guess,
but
I guess that makes sense because you know, with like fans of the show, they would probably send in their ideas, but if you open it, there's a whole can of worms that comes with that legality. I imagine it was along that level where we know you, but you're not officially part of the crew, so we can't accept this.
Yeah. And if we did open it and read it and then did
something remotely
future,
like
it,
it,
could come at us. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. But anyway, the Fox certainly knew that they had a popular show on their hands.
Oh yeah.
I guess they thought, let's go back to the well here. I mean, it is an interesting story because it is one of the few X-Files where they put a bad guy away.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a bad guy to work with. So, I mean, why not?
The OG bad guy.
The OG. Well, shall we squeeze on into it? Shall we open the tube and squoosh out some Tooms?
Yeah. Let's squeeze into this
episode. We have elongated this opening long enough.
Don't stretch this opening any longer.
We open up in Druid Hills Sanitarium in Baltimore, Maryland. The camera pans through the empty institution, but we hear moans and sobbing. This is not one of those nice sanitariums you hear about. We finally reach a door with a nameplate, Tooms, Eugene Victor. So right then and there, you know who and what this episode is going to be about.
If you hadn't checked your TV guide yet, now you know.
Now, would it have had the name of the episode?
I
guess it would have a real brief description of it. Eugene Tooms is back.
I'm pretty positive they labeled them, the episodes, because that's not just for us.
Yeah.
Like now.
Well, they don't have it in... Now they do it everywhere, but they at the beginning of the episode, you wouldn't have had like a little nameplate to say the title of the episode.
No, but I still think they
had
interior labeled it somewhere. They had to, but I don't know. Oh, to go back to 1994 and check.
Let's time travel and get the answer to this question. Well, we know who the episode's going to be about. Tiamat tracks through the door into darkness, and then we get the eerie face of Tooms through some kind of meal slot or something. He's looking at him.
Yeah, that's where his tray goes.
The light is looking at him in a particularly menacing way, and he pokes his arms with a slot, impossibly stretching towards the door handle. A bone in his arm seems to break, and Mark Snow's Spider Fingers music starts up as his fingers get closer to the handle. Then a guard enters the hallway, and two figures walk towards Tooms' cell. It's the psychiatrist, Dr. Monty, come to check on Tooms. The hand is nowhere to be seen, and he's clearly swooped it back into the cell.
Yeah.
Monty opens the door, and they have a rather one-sided conversation where they go over the fact that tomorrow is Tooms' parole hearing. Monty assures Tooms that he's going to be released tomorrow. He has this little business of I've talked to the other doctors, and they've given me the advanced copy or something. But anyway, they lay it out for us. This is what the episode's going to be. Tooms is about to get out of jail.
Yeah.
Well, Monty leaves with a really good one-liner. He says, well, let's just keep our fingers crossed. And we see Tooms do one of the weirdest finger crosses ever.
I was... Thank you. I'm glad I'm not the only one who noticed that.
No normal human would ever cross their fingers like this, you know? It looks like two spider legs. Just so weird. Well, this is one of those opens where nobody dies. What do you think of this episode's open?
I like it because, if you've stuck with the show since the beginning, you know who this guy is and what he's capable of. We got a sneak peek. Let's say you're just joining the X-Files of what he can do when he reached for that latch.
Right.
But, I think it draws us in, and it works on both levels. If you're just joining us, or excuse me, if you've been with us since the beginning, you know what he can do. If you're just joining us, this guy has some powers, and not to mention his yellow eyes.
Oh, he's a bad dude. Everything about him screams evil.
Yeah, that in and of itself would draw you in.
Yeah. It's an excellent example of showing and not telling. Like they do a little exposition with, letting us know the parole hearing is tomorrow and, you're going to likely get released. How do you feel about that? It's applying normal to strange, which is really, really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, they show us everything that lets you know that this guy is just bad news. And yeah, I think it's a really great open. One of the better ones, actually.
Yeah.
Well, after the open, we are introduced to yet another new FBI figure, a little guy named Assistant Director Walter Skinner.
Walter Skinner's debut appearance.
Yeah, he's, of course, going to come back.
He comes out strong.
Yeah, oh, God, yeah. Well, and kind of caricature, I'm going to say. Like, you could have put in Blevins in this position here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been exactly the same kind of role. I will say that he does give it its own special sauce.
Yeah.
Enough that I can see why they brought him back. Like, he's good. I like him. Well, you're not meant to like him, but you know what I mean? You like him as a bad guy, as a foil.
Yeah, and to be completely in conjecture here, I think the producers wanted something that was higher than Mulder and Scully, but lower than Blevins. Someone who they could routinely interact with and have to answer to, so that the show made just a little bit more sense.
It's true. You don't have that classic trope from police procedurals where your protagonist cops are kind of brushing up against authority, and that is one aspect of the show that is hugely important, is this idea that he's working against the grain by pursuing the X-Files. He's been given special license to do this, but nobody wants him to do this, for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
So having that there more often is going to be a big deal.
Right. And of course, the icing on the scene is cigarette smoking man.
Oh, yeah.
Standing behind him, just like he did with Blevins. He's in the room and he's got his presence letting us know that he's controlling Skinner, or, what we believe to be happening.
Oh, there's some wonderful, meaningful glances here. But the thrust of the scene is that Skinner is giving Scully the gears. They've reviewed her reports and they are not happy. Irregular procedure, untenable evidence, anonymous witnesses, and inconclusive findings. But Scully argues that that's just the X-Files for you. And more to the point, she kind of brags that they have a conviction or closure rate of 75%, well above the department standard. So there's this...
I don't buy it.
There's this marvelous... Yeah, if you look at the episodes, you probably dispute those numbers. But
what exactly have they solved? But no.
Well, ironically enough, Tooms is the feather in their cap. So I do like that there's this moment where Scully cuts to the chase. What more do you want? You know, we've got my reports. We're closing cases. This is kind of why I'm here, right? And this look between Skinner and the cigarette smoking man of like, kind of got us there. You know, it's like, don't you know that we want you to tank this program? But can't say that. So Skinner wants more and frequent reports, conventional investigation. And the scene rounds out with Scully's great line of, conventional investigation may decrease the rate of success.
Oh. And then, of course, cigarette smoking man snuffs out a cigarette.
Yeah.
Symbolism.
You know, it's interesting that this is classed as a Monster of the Week episode, but yet by bringing this scene in, by bringing the cigarette smoking man in, like it's almost a mythology episode. Like it runs right close to the track.
I think it's just one of those. It's like kind of like, well, actually, in no way is it like Lazarus, where they throw in, cigarette smoking man at the end, as if he's going to be personally involved in this. But I mean, this one more so for sure, because as you say, they want to derail the X-Files to the point of shutting it down, and then CSM can get on with his life and continue doing shady stuff. But this one does run pretty close to being a mythology episode by accident.
Yeah. Well, we're going to cut back to Tooms' parole hearing, where Mulder is in attendance, and Dr. Monty paints a picture of Tooms as a victim, persecuted by the FBI. There's this great moment where time seems to slow down for Tooms as Monty is testifying. He seems to target Monty with those dead eyes, and he's tapping his pen in sequence with what he's saying, and it sort of slows down and has those big cannon-like thuds. You're really seeing what Tooms is seeing here. It's such a good moment. And it's really ironic that as this is happening, Monty is assuring the court that Tooms presents no danger to the community.
Because he answered one question. I like the fact that Monty is like, so you see what's happening here. Because he answered this one question and, was a little talkative about it. Mm-hmm. He's accepting his emotions and he's conveying them to me. So he's cured.
He wants to pick up dead rats again. Just let him. Come on. At the risk of cutting to the chase, Mulder presents his truckload of wacky evidence. It does not go over well with the court.
No. I was going to say, I like how the defense lawyer is like, I got nothing.
Mulder's Your Honor, I rest my case. This guy.
I got nothing to ask. This is nuts.
Can you imagine the scene between I don't know if it's a DA, but, obviously the representative of the state who wants to keep Tooms behind bars, and the meeting he must have had with Mulder in advance to say, so we need you to recount kind of the facts of the case that brought you here. Can you do that? And Mulder be like, oh, yeah, totally, I can do that. Cool.
Can you do that and only that?
I haven't had a chance to really read up on this file yet. Can you bring the court up to speed? Oh, sure.
So they have that meeting. Everything goes well. Mulder says, yes, I'll recount everything. And then when they get in the courtroom, they see him wheeling in a projector and they go, oh, fuck. It's blown. He's not sticking to the story.
Oh, visual aids, that's going to really help the court, I'm sure. Good stuff. Good initiative, Agent Mulder. Yeah. But, he, at the end of this that Tooms has won, that this mere act of telling the truth is going to sink it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I was just going to say, before we move on, the defense lawyer for Tooms is Glynis Davies.
I know I've seen her before. I couldn't place it.
We will see her as the clueless landlord in Too Shy, who gets herself killed for her troubles.
Right.
And the clueless mom in Irresistible, who tells the killer / milkman, they leave their back door unlocked.
Right.
And here's my 16-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Say hi.
Her bedroom's up the stairs to the left if you just want to go up and scope it out. leave the window open.
We never lock anything.
Yeah. You're the
And
new
she's in
milkman.
bed by 8.
Yep. Yeah. So Tooms is definitely going to get released. I don't know. I will say right up in advance, I like this episode a lot. There's a lot to love in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
I guess if I was going to throw in a little what if, it would be they clearly went through a trial that got Tooms put away.
Mm-hmm.
So there's already a lot of evidence that's been put into the public record. And I understand they retconned a bit to say that he was only charged for, I forget what the charge was, but it wasn't to do any of the murders. It was...
Yeah, it was assault on Scully, I believe.
Yeah, it was the home invasion.
Yeah, they never tied, I don't believe, anything murder-wise to him.
So it's intelligent writing in that sense, in that, clearly this is what they're going to pin him on, is the fact he broke into her apartment, they, had an assault. That was enough to get him put away, but...
Agent Mulder, look at his fingers. Look at him, 100 years
I
old.
contend that perhaps through a genetic mutation, Eugene Tooms is capable of contorting and elongating his body in order to gain access to victims, so that he may extract the livers which provide him sustenance for the hibernation period of 30 years. He needs one more victim to complete this cycle.
Your Honor.
A preliminary exam done at the time of Tooms' arrest revealed abnormalities in his striated muscles and axial bones. His attorney blocked further study.
Thank you, Agent Mulder.
I ask you to place the safety of the
Counsel,
people
no
first and
further
foremost.
questions, Your
This is a
Honor.
rare
Agent
and abnormal
Mulder.
human creature who should
Agent
not be
Mulder.
released, but retained for further study.
You may step down.
If you release Eugene Tooms, he will kill again. It's in his genetic makeup.
realistically, Mulder's smart enough to know that this is going to happen, right? Like, he's smart enough to know that telling truth to this court is only going to get, it's only going to get him the opposite of what he wants.
Yeah, I mean, Scully kind of gives it to him out in the hall afterwards. You sounded so, and he's like, I don't care how I sounded. I wanted it to be the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So people can hear how nutso it is. But I mean, I would hope deep down he knows that there's no fighting this.
Yeah.
Once it gets to a certain level in the courts, no one is going to sit there and listen to this information, however true it may be. It's going to come off as insane.
Well, exactly.
So, yeah, I think deep down he knows.
And I know that the plot demands that Tooms be released. I just feel like, I don't know, I have my doubts that Mulder would be so high up in his horse to think that the truth is going to set you free, or the court will accept this truth.
Yeah.
He's no stranger to working with
guess
this environment. I don't understand it. So
he's Hail Marrying it. He senses that he's going to get released.
I suppose, but there are other grounds. Maybe there aren't other grounds. Maybe he really needs
to embarrass himself in court.
They could have gone into it a little bit more with a little bit of pretrial stuff with the state's rep to say, no, there's nothing we're going to be able to do. He's going to get released, on a charge like this. He served his time. There's no proof, blah, 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 blah. And Mulder says, all right, well, I'm going to play it all on the line then, and
yeah,
maybe as it stands, it just looks like he decides to go crazy. And I don't think that really, that's really, I don't believe it. I don't believe that of him. But the plot demands it. I'm willing to accept it. So, well, Scully also, she says what we're all thinking afterwards. She's like, the testimony was so crazy that no court's going to side with you. So why decide to go in on the truth? But also, this is season 1 Mulder. He hasn't gotten cynical yet. But the court obviously decides to release Tooms and put him in the care of the Green family, a lovely looking family.
Oh, they look like they're adopting a baby when they stand up in court.
They do.
They're like so happy. They're squeezing in next to each other.
Yeah, it's been our dream.
Serial killer ex-con.
So Mulder and Scully have a little combo out in the hallway afterwards, and Mulder decides he's going to tail Tooms. It's only a matter of time before he's got to eat his 5th liver. And Scully says she's going to help. We get a bit of catch up on the bureaucracy, having a hard time with the X-Files investigations. And Mulder says that Scully needs to review the older murders, the one of 30 and 60 years ago, to find evidence to tie Tooms to those murders. Scully says that's going to fly in the face of what Skinner wants, but Mulder convinces her to follow the truth despite that pressure. And meanwhile, Tooms is escorted from the court by the Green family, who quip that the room Tooms will have at the end of their house is small, but you're sure I'm sure you'll be able to squeeze in.
Squeeze in. Oh, ho, ho,
A pun meister
writer.
after my own heart.
Gotta
Yeah.
love a good pun.
We have a very, very happy Tooms walking away. That grin is pretty, it's pretty
Yeah.
That ate the canary right there.
He
knows
gives
he won.
Mulder that creepy grin, and he just walks right on by.
Mm-hmm. After the break, we see Tooms is back at his job as an animal control officer, picking up a dead rat, stuffs it in a bag, and then this lovely scene of him licking his hands in a pretty disgusting way after he...
Pretty disgusting.
Yeah. So yeah, we're
Oof.
reminded he is not a nice guy. He's crazy, weird. He then goes on to lock on to a woman at a coffee truck, perhaps targeting his next victim, and there is a pretty cool color effect as the woman's in color and the background's put in black and white, which
Yeah.
not easy. I mean, easy to do now, but in '94, I think it would have been a bit of work.
It looks really good for 94, for sure.
Yeah,
And I think it even looks slightly better than it did in the first episode.
it's true. They did use the effect in the first episode.
They did use it in there. But I think they've got a little bit more money per episode right now.
Well,
And,
after Space, they're still working off of an empty coffer, so
that's true. They are still in the red.
they got to make every penny count. And after Darkness Falls, they're like, all the episodes from now on are interiors, and it's good weather.
No rain.
There's no
Ever?
rain. In fact, we're going to be shooting a couple episodes in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Crew's going to love us.
Give everyone on the crew a break and a mojito.
Well, Mulder appears out of nowhere, asking if maybe Tooms can help him find his lost dog, Heinrich, a Norwegian elk hound.
It's so ridiculous. His name's Heinrich.
Yeah.
Of all the names he could have thought of.
Well, I don't understand the name, but I do get the use of breed. I did Google it. And
Oh, yeah?
apparently, the Norwegian elk hound, there have been bones of dogs found in the tombs of ancient Egyptian pharaohs. And they
The
were classified
tombs?
in the same family, making them among the oldest of dog breeds.
Oh,
So I think
interesting.
he's definitely doing a little highfalutin poke at Tooms. If they're quick. I don't know if you'd be able to Google that in 94.
Probably not.
No, you have to wait for your dial-up to connect. Well, Tooms tears off in his van with squealing tires. He's been foiled by Mulder. And
Yep.
yeah, pretty good scene. So we move on to the Lynn Acres retirement home, where Scully's going to have a reunion with our old buddy detective Frank Briggs, the original
Frank
detective
Briggs.
who was assigned to the Tooms case, the murders in 1963.
3.
Yeah. And so Scully is looking for more information about the cases. They're trying to find anything that will help them link these murders to Tooms, because now he's been paroled, he's been released, he's going to undoubtedly get into...
Kill again.
Yeah, I was going to say get into mischief, and it's like, no, he's going to kill someone.
Okay, get into mischief. Yes. Oftentimes, murder and mischief.
Well, Briggs reveals a new piece of information. There was a missing fifth person in the 1933 murders, which did not fit the model, where there should have been 5 dead bodies preceding Tooms hibernating for 30 years. And Briggs goes on to produce a liver in a little jar.
God. Who is this man? Are we supposed to just write that off? Oh, he's a detective.
Yeah.
He's an old
He
detective.
likes to carry his evidence from him, with him.
He likes to steal evidence.
No, he's still
Not to mention
investigating
human
after
body
all this
parts.
time. Well, the thing is, it's not even a liver from the 60s. It'd be a liver from the 30s. So this is like
What the fuck is happening?
60-year-old bottle of liver.
This is where it's unfortunate.
You got a little hard
because-
time with this, do you?
Oh, yeah, hard time with that on its own. But and then we go into the next scene where they're
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me describe it, because he's not looking for Tooms. He's looking for this missing fifth body. All the same, they did not need the liver. I mean, it didn't make sense that there was any liver, because surely Tooms would have eaten the entire thing. Like, why is there this partial liver?
yeah.
You could have easily just had, a piece of information that the last place the guy was seen was at the Ruxton chemical plant. Instead, they seemingly found this liver part at the plant.
Sure.
Okay. Well, so it was found at the Ruxton chemical plant when it was under construction, and Briggs mentions that he's going on a hunch, and that Scully needs to trust her instincts. And I will point that out as a nice touch, given that the theme of this episode seems to be about Tooms going on a biological imperative, this instinct, when it comes to eating livers in order to go into hibernation. He's got no choice. He has to sort of follow this compulsion to do it. So I like that is a theme that they're going to pull back on a couple of times. And in the next scene, it's going to really, really terribly obvious. But they go to the chemical plant to look for this missing body, armed with the latest in technology, ground-penetrating radar. There is some technical back and forth discussing how it works, essentially educating us, the audience. And they spend some time unsuccessfully looking for the hidden body. Meanwhile, Briggs wheels himself around until he seems to divine a location. And he shouts out that it's here. And the team rushes over, and incredulous Scully looks on. You didn't like that scene, did you? I could see it in your eyes.
I did not like this scene. Not to mention, is it like one slab of dirt? It doesn't even look finished, like concrete or whatever. It's like, what the hell's happening?
Yeah.
Not only did he just intuit that this body is here underneath his wheels, but I don't know, man. What were they thinking? They could have done something.
They could have done so much more. I think of other episodes where they do a good job in giving information to the characters to draw a conclusion, and you're with them doing it, going, "Oh, I get it. That's why he figured that out." You have the same evidence, but in this case, it's literally he decides that the body is there. I would have loved the scene where they tear up the entire place and they don't find it, and he's like, "Oh, I guess I'm wrong," but that is not what happens. So.
Yeah, he pinpoints that fucking thing.
Yeah.
And
we have a brief cut back to Tooms, who picks up another dead thing, and he locks on to another potential target. Then we go back to the chemical plant, and indeed they are boring through the concrete to discover a skeletal hand, complete with wedding ring. Briggs was right. And the moral of the story is, who cares about ground-penetrating radar? Just go with your gut.
It really shines a new light on paleontology.
It does.
Just walk around for a bit and point at the ground.
Well, frankly, Briggs has got a whole new career waiting for him at this point. He's going to be the skeletal.
He does. I would get him get him to the nearest police department and be like, "I can find anybody you're looking for."
He's like a cadaver dog, but on wheels.
I have another problem with this, and he's wearing soundproof earmuffs.
Yeah.
That guy probably can't hear anything already, so what's the difference?
He doesn't detect the bodies with a sense of hearing. He detects them with a sense of taste, I guess.
I know.
I don't know. But yeah.
I'm just making fun that he's old, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, we can tell you're a jerk.
Mike with your off-color jokes.
Yeah. Well, later that night, Tooms pulls up to his latest target in his the target's flash red car. Oh, okay, so this is a bit convoluted. We have the target pulling up in a flash red car. Then Tooms pulls up in his van, and then Mulder pulls up in his car. So everybody's getting into position here.
Everyone's pulling up.
Yeah, we've got a stakeout in the making. And
I think what this is actually footage of is the actors arriving on set.
Oh, I'm Mr. Nutter. I'm 15 minutes early for my shoot. Can I just go and do some accounting? Can I balance my checkbook? Well, there's going to be a stakeout, and from here on in, I'm calling the dude Mr. Jerkface, because he has this moment where he's working on his spreadsheet pie charts or whatever, and seemingly his lovely wife comes in to tell him that she's going to go to bed, maybe watch some TV, and he's like, yeah, whatever. He's got that look of I can't be bothered.
Right.
So we're obviously not meant to like this guy.
I agree with you. I think she lingers there for like a acknowledgement at least of what she's saying.
Yeah.
But he gives her nothing.
Honey,
pretty much.
Give me a sandwich. Come on.
Why are you out of the kitchen?
Don't you know there's a toilet that needs repair?
Not to mention she's snaking the toilet. I got it. Don't worry.
Don't you worry, honey. You balance our checkbook. I'll deal with the plumbing. Guess I should have cooked you a turkey. Well, Mr. Jerkface does some important chart-related work and is a dick to his attentive wife. He's going to be working late. Fade out in time, coming back to Mulder, who has fallen asleep on his stakeout. Bad Mulder. He goes out to check the place. Tooms is not in his van. But as Mulder runs to the house, a manhole under the van clunks shut. Tooms in the sewers. You didn't like this?
No. At a certain point, it just gets ridiculous.
Well,
like, how thin can this guy get?
Oh, you mean for what's going to happen? Yeah, I have an objection to that too. I'm trying to think of all the points where we have this moment of the camera lingering on something and it sort of happens in front of us. Like, we've got the manhole closing. We've got, later on, we'll have Mulder's trunk closing. It's like, you know that Tooms is on the other side of that, but you're seeing the effect of his actions rather than, him doing them. You don't see him doing it.
Yeah, it's a little over the top and in your face in this episode.
I will say that it's
similar to Lazarus.
Yeah. I will say that it's faithful to the original episode, though, because that was a huge part of the aesthetic for Tooms, is that you saw the effect of his actions rather than the actions themselves. So
true.
So I'll give him points for staying on brand. But that is the one trick they continue to do, is showing him going into a place and then like the door closing behind him or something.
Right.
So anyway, Tooms is in the sewers. We're back in the house, and we have Mrs. Jerkface plunging the toilet. She's using a toilet snake to dislodge the blockage, and there's this weird back and forth moment where it's stuck or something. And
yeah,
what we're meant to believe is that Tooms is inside the toilet drain.
The pipes. I don't... Too much. Like, I have to draw the line here. Like, this is almost comical. Like, what they're expecting us to buy.
Well...
And it's unfortunate, really, because it's not a bad episode.
Oh, it's not. But this could have been cut right here. This
is terrible.
This entry into the house through the sewers doesn't really track.
Show him squeezing into the basement window. You know, those really thin windows.
Yep.
Do something like that. He's breaking into the basement of the house, getting into the house. Or maybe another chimney. It might be a rehash of the first episode, but come on.
Like, find another way to use Pepper, who is the artist who can contort themselves to these crazy ways.
Yeah.
Like, they had them on, but I can't think of a whole lot of places where you actually see this happen. So using the toilet in this way, so a toilet drain is 4 inches in diameter.
Mm-hmm.
A modern one is 3 inches. So it's like, there is no way that Tooms is able to squeeze through that. And then
if he can do that.
To get through the toilet into the bathroom, I mean, that's never going to happen. I'm sorry, that is never going to happen.
Not to mention that if he can do this, which he's doing, we're watching it.
Yeah.
How did he not escape from his cell?
Oh, you got to imagine there's a toilet somewhere in the facility, yeah.
Well, not only that, but the tray window is more believable, however unbelievable that is, than this.
Yeah. Well, the icing on the cake is that at the end of all of this toilet business, she puts a safety latch on the toilet.
And that's what stops.
Well, it either stops the dog from licking in the toilet bowl, or it stops from human shape changers from getting into your house. Either way, it's multi-branded. But this seems to foil the effort to get inside the house. We see Mulder searching around outside. He misses Tooms coming in a window, again, foiled by the toilet safety latch. And he's a disgusting mess of sewage. I would have been okay with Tooms going into the sewer and coming out another place in the sewer. And you could have had a moment where it's like a sewer grill and he has to squeeze through that to get out and then up.
And that's fine.
I think that would have been cool.
Yeah.
Another opportunity to showcase this ability, but this whole toilet business, 0 out of 10. Did not like it.
Too much.
Mr. Jerkface continues to work on his spreadsheets as Tooms sneaks through the house. Mulder spots the signs of forced entry by the window. He knocks on the door, alerting Jerkfaces that there's an intruder in the house, but Tooms has escaped, fleeing through an open window. Mulder sees hand marks on the window frame, but by the time he runs outside, Tooms' van is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah. All around bad scene. We've already poked major holes in this thing.
Yeah.
Not to mention when Mulder looks at the window, there's what appears to be blood on it, which, okay, no explanation for that.
Well, I think that's meant to be poop. I think that's what that is.
It's very red, so I hope it's not. But it also, I'm like, what the hell windows do these people have that are bars of steel?
Yeah.
Like, what is this going on here? What kind of house is this?
Very strange security that they have in the house. Yeah.
It's just weird.
Yeah, it's a little strange. I would have frankly seen Tooms as going straight to the Mulder framing business rather than try and do a kill. Because he knows Mulder's after him. He's as Mulder has said, he hasn't stayed away, out of custody for 90 years. For nothing. He's got,
without being cunning,
Yeah, he's got cunning. So the other thing I would note here is that we have a lot of fingerprints probably sitting around. Like, surely to God, we got evidence that will allow Mulder to arrest
Tooms has been here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they even key in on it on the window frame. Mulder shines his light. You see the elongated fingers. It's like, it is cracked wood, so maybe they couldn't get a perfect. They could get a partial.
Yeah.
And if they got a partial, they could match the Tooms, and why the fuck are you there?
Well,
back in jail.
We have already seen the technology which allows Mulder to do anything with fingerprints, apparently. So.
The super magnificent computer program.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much there. Like, Tooms' van was there. You knew the van was there. You have fingerprints on the window, footprints probably. There's all sorts of stuff here that they could have used to get him, but the plot just decides to ignore that this happened at all.
And if you think about it, Mulder could have taken pictures of the van.
Yeah.
Taken pictures of the fingerprints, taken the fingerprints, and been like, okay, talk to the owners of the house. We didn't hire this dude, so why is he here? And why is he breaking into our house?
Yeah. Yeah. And what's that smell of sewage?
Episode over.
I
gotta be honest, Andrew, as we talk about this, I'm starting to dislike this episode more, and that's unfortunate. For as much as I do enjoy this episode, it's not boding well right now.
Listen, there are going to be a few bits and pieces which redeem it a little later. So
For
just
sure.
Pretend that this didn't happen is the only advice I can give you.
Yes.
After the break, Scully's at the Smithsonian Institute. She's looking at the excavated body with a forensic scientist. I don't know what you call this guy.
No, but it is Jerry Wasserman, and he appears in Excelsis Day, the convalescent home episode.
I don't like that episode.
Not good. I watched it today.
Okay, great. You're going to lead that one, right?
I'm sorry. Keep going.
Well, they have found some pennies nearby, which allow them to date the bodies from the 30s, but they haven't been able to identify a cause of death. The scientist has done some preliminary work to identify the body based on a picture supplied to him by Briggs. He's superimposed the face over the skull, and it gives them some, what I'd say is tenuous proof that it's the missing victim, but
very tenuous.
Good work. Later, Mulder agrees this is not enough to tie Tooms to the murder from the 30s. And yeah, I have to agree.
You see Scully's like remote jubilation just deflate in front of the camera when he just dismisses it.
It's not enough. It's like, what do you mean? I've got this picture right here. I mean,
This
congratulations.
is total evidence.
You found a body, and it doesn't have like Tooms' signature on it or anything. So
Right. He's convicted on that.
yeah,
This badly photoshopped picture of a skull and a face.
Well, there is some good work here tying back to the conversation that she's had with Skinner, where Even the
Yes.
scientist says that, this is unconventional, what I am doing
Right.
at this point here. Do you want me to even show you? And she has that moment of, do I? And then she says, yeah, sure, we'll keep it off the record. So she is definitely on Mulder's side by her actions, which is nice to see.
It is nice to see. And I will say that that's one of the aspects I like is Mulder and Scully are very much a team in this episode. Scully, however often she likes to talk herself out of believing the paranormal, she knows what Tooms is capable of. And whether or not it is paranormal, she's committed to keeping him from hurting anyone else. She believes that he can do what Mulder says he can do. So, and he invaded her home. So
Yeah. She's got
in this episode, she is very much with Mulder.
Yeah.
So,
well, we have a nice moment between them. She's coming to check up on him at the stakeout. We learn that Mulder...
Shipper Central.
Yeah. We learned that Mulder really hasn't slept for 3 days, and Scully's concerned he's going to make a mistake. You could argue that he's already made a mistake because he fell asleep during the stakeout.
Mm-hmm.
And Mulder reports that Tooms has not left his house all day.
They're out to put an end to the X-Files, Scully. I don't know why, but any excuse will do. Now, I don't really care about my record, but you'd be in trouble just sitting in this car. And I'd hate to see you carry an official reprimand in your career file because of me.
Fox.
And I even made my parents call me Mulder.
Mulder, I wouldn't put myself on the line for anybody but you.
If there's an iced tea in that bag, it could be love.
This is what I'm going to say is probably the redeeming moment for a lot of people. This feels like a very nice scene between them. Mike, do you have any thoughts?
I'm just beside myself with emotion right now. My heart is fluttering. No, it's great. I love it. I think it's nice to see them come down and talk real. I'm always a fan of when these two characters get to spread out a little bit. And I feel like this is one of those scenes where it's not all business.
Yeah.
Of course, they're talking about their job, but at the same time, they're talking about the future and what everything's meaning and what's changing. So they did a good job at just kind of taking a break from the episode in this moment. And this is kind of going with what you were saying earlier, that it kind of sideswipes that mythology piece.
Mm-hmm.
Like just because this scene's in there and the scene with Skinner in the beginning, it's like, is this technically a mythology episode? Because they're bringing it up a lot, the main thread of the show.
Yeah. The
And I
idea
like
of
it.
the X-Files being in some kind of jeopardy too is
Yeah.
started here basically.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we eventually have to get back to the episode. So it has been a nice break, but
Oh.
yeah. Well, Scully is on board. She's going to continue the stakeout if he goes home and gets some sleep. And so he says, here, have my sandwich. I've only taken a bite out of it. It's liverwurst.
Jokey jokes.
So he gives her the sandwich and goes off. But as he goes, we see there's this business of the trunk closing very gently, seemingly of its own accord. But of course, we know, based on the conceit, Tooms is in that trunk. And then we have a great moment with Scully back in her car looking at the sandwich Mulder has only taken a single bite out of. And I don't know about you, but it looks like he's got some pretty weird dental stuff going on from that bite mark.
It's very narrow.
Isn't it weird?
I don't know how hard it is to have your actor just bite into a sandwich, but it looked a little pointy.
It looked,
I don't know.
It looked
Maybe
like a comical bite out of a sandwich. And the way that she hoisted it up to show it to us, it I don't know. It all looked a little put on. I know the point of it, though, which is nice because it will come back. But in the moment, it looks a little strange. So we're now in Mulder's apartment. A movie is on, The Fly, the 50s Fly. And he's asleep on the couch, or trying to. I don't know how he's able to sleep through this movie, because they're at the point in the movie when the fly is revealed and she is screaming something amazing. And it's like, if it was me, I would be like, oh, I can't have this on, trying to sleep. It's a neat scene, because as the camera is panning over from this, we go back over to an air vent where screws are being unscrewed from the inside. We're going back to the trope from the original episode. It's a nice effect. You know, it is very subtle because there's even a moment when Mulder is kind of rousing from his sleep and the screw stops unscrewing to sort of wait for that to pass, and then it starts unscrewing again. I think they did that in the first episode, like not the first, in Squeeze, the first kick of the can with Tooms. So a nice little callback to that. So with a musical sting, Tooms is in the apartment, but he doesn't kill Mulder.
Diegetic, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. He proceeds to injure himself. It's pretty gross the way he does it too, eh? He like inserts his finger in his cheek or something. But
well, I guess we can piece it together pretty easily, but it's like, what is he doing in the apartment? And then he starts hurting himself as Mulder sleeps. But
I guess I had a moment. I was thinking, like, is he starting some sort of war ritual? You know, is he gonna start it up? But
I think what they should have done is had him pick up a shoe and just stare at Mulder and then fade to commercial. That would have been even more confusing.
Yeah, that would have been very good. Actually, that would have been very good. The idea of him just sort of finding the shoes. Oh, of course, but he has to leave them there. He can't take them with him. Yeah, I guess he can't have everything. So how did he do it then? Does he take the shoes, go outside, kick his own ass, and then bring them back?
Pretty much. I'm assuming he just whacks himself in the face.
Well, and the movie is so loud. I guess he could do it quite subtly, but
yeah.
Well, later at the hospital, we have a nurse and a cop cataloging his injuries, and they note the partial shoe print on Toombs's jaw. And Toombs whispers to the nurse that it was Mulder who performed the beatdown.
Timothy Weber, the detective, he shows up in Our Town and Quagmire.
Do we see the nurse anywhere else?
We don't.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Okay, I'm just fucking with you. So,
no, I really don't believe so. I could be wrong, ladies and gentlemen.
We do see Toombs pop his own shoulder back into joint, which is particularly gross, but great.
Great sound, though.
Oh, yeah. It's fuck. I mean, it just shows how alien he is, right? That he can do that and seemingly without any kind of pain. But it totally feeds in so well with what we know about this character. Well, later on, Mulder's visited by this cop and I guess a beat cop. They find the offending shoes and he's got to go downtown to answer some questions. Mulder steps on an out-of-place screw and picks it up and looks at it. What's that screw doing here? I'm trying to remember from the original episode whether he pieced it together then about the business with the screws.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's well aware of what's happening once he notices the screw here.
Yeah.
I think he knows Toombs has been in his apartment at some point. He may not know exactly what is going on, but he knows he's been invaded.
Well, I also thought that there's a distinct lack of professional courtesy here. Like, the cop seems to immediately side with Toombs and isn't really...
Yeah.
He's not giving any kind of grace to Mulder.
Yeah, it's a little uncharacteristic, I would say, but...
Yeah, I guess not all cops have to be friends, or maybe this guy has a particular hatred of FBI agents.
He walks into Mulder's apartment like, this is my show now.
Yeah, it's like, no.
I'm Mr. Detective. I'm vying for David Duchovny's job.
Yeah, I've always wanted to be in the FBI. I'm going to take your job for you. Well, after the break, Mulder and Scully are brought in to be confronted by Assistant Director Skinner about the allegation of assault. Mulder alleges Toombs is framing him, and he seems to present some compelling forensic evidence to back it up.
I like it.
Skinner's preparing to take Toombs' side, but then Scully takes the opportunity to cover for Mulder, saying they were together on the stakeout at the time of the alleged assault. And we have this great back and forth between Scully and Skinner. He asks her, Agent Scully, are you lying to me? And she responds that she'd expect to, what would she say? She would expect you to place the same trust in me as I do in you. It's so... Yep.
Twist that knife.
It's so good, like, I don't trust you, but I'm going to say it with a smile on my face.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And it, again, I know we said it in the beginning, but fucking Mitch Pileggi, he's making one hell of an entrance in this episode, and I love it. He does such a good job.
There's a reason they bring him back. He's really good.
Oh, yeah.
So Skinner is going to have a word in private with Mulder as the cigarette-smoking man smokes another cigarette. Skinner goes on to praise Mulder. He kind of offers an olive branch to him. He says, basically, step away, take some vacation, and Mulder's going to take him up on it. Skinner then forbids Mulder to go anywhere near Tooms and advises him that this was a close call, and none of his friends at the Capitol will be able to help him next time. I think that's earned, that doesn't come out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. I like how that scene plays out.
Yeah. And we do get that reminder of just how the X-Files are staying open.
Yeah.
The friends at the Capitol who have an interest in this, however passing, they're able to go above the heads of anyone here and keep it open, despite what Mulder's getting himself into.
Yep. Well, we have some good scene-chewing background work by William B. Davis as the cigarette-smoking man in the scene. He's just pretty amazing, saying nothing but meaning everything. Well, Scully is going to follow up on an idea. She's examining Tooms' dental records and comparing them to bite marks found on the Ruxton chemical plant body. And, of course, there is a computer software that can create a 3D model from bite marks. And in one of the most egregious examples of computers solving crimes in 30 seconds, the 3D cast is superimposed over the 3D bone bite marks, and a blinking green notification informs us that it is a match. Case closed.
You found the biter. It's interesting. Being a fan of myself, documentaries, and watching forensic files and things like that. I have seen the cases where they take the cast of the killer's teeth or something. And so I get where they're going with this.
You can totally do this.
The problem with this, the problem with this is they're taking a computer-generated mouth and a computer-generated bite mark that's like, you can make that fit anything. So this proves nothing. Like, I don't know. It's just a little too convenient, and it doesn't really. It's not important anyway. But it's neat for the people of 1994.
The computer has told us that it is a match. Therefore,
you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to doubt you.
Well, I don't know. I as you know, I hate this stuff. I hate this use of the computer to sort of shortcut the plot. And I don't know. I'll say more about it later, but ultimately I do not like that this is the reason that the body was hidden. Because that was Briggs's whole thing, right? Was that he knew there was a reason that this body was hidden because it could somehow link Tooms to the murder. But Tooms in 1933 is not going to be thinking about, well, my bite marks might be associated with those ribs.
He's thinking less forward than that, but he's still thinking forward that one day people will be able to solve crimes through bite marks. And I better hide this body.
But is this the only body that he's used his teeth to get through a rib? I mean,
he must have been like really hungry this time because instead of like extracting the liver and then snacking, he like got in there.
All right, I guess I'm getting into it now. For me, it would have made sense to have the ring be the tie-in. That this was a ring that was significant to Tooms. That maybe has his name on it. I don't know, but because that was such an obvious point when the camera shows us the body coming out of the cement is the ring on the finger. That's such an obvious gimme. But there's that disconnect in the plot that Briggs has led us to this point that this body is important, but at the end of the day, it's important for this really out there reason. The 3D generation of the dental work. It doesn't work for me.
I'll probably get to that in my final thoughts. Why so much of this is concerning.
Okay. Well, moving on. We're going to cut back to Tooms, who is tearing up strips of paper, presumably to create his next nest. Yes, in the original Squeeze, we know that he uses his own bile and paper to make a comfortable, cozy hibernation nest. And so this is a little foreshadowing that this is what he's going to do. But Dr. Monty has stopped in to check on Tooms. Unfortunately, Tooms tunes him out. Say that
I
5
would
times
too.
fast. Yeah, nobody likes Dr. Monty.
If this would be my caseworker, I'd be like, you know what? Maybe I'll kill you and eat your liver.
Oh, I didn't know you
I
were
don't know.
interested
I
in
just
art.
don't like him.
I didn't know you were interested in art. I like art.
Mache too.
Paper mache. I remember my time as a child when I paper. And it's just black and white looking in on him.
Shut the fuck up.
There's a marvelous moment, though. He closes the door to this room really lightly, and then we hear Monty saying,
Yeah.
What are you doing, Eugene?
Yeah. I am oblivious to what's happening here.
I thought you were such a nice guy. My goodness. Oh God, Agent Mulder was right.
The whole time he's getting attacked, he's like, I was wrong.
COVID's not a hoax. Oh, no. Anyway, we have this, there's also an eerie camera shot of his eyes just illuminated by the slit of light in his yellow eyes. Oh,
Yep.
It's just all sorts of creepy. But clearly the Greens have gone out for the evening because there's a lot of shouting coming out of Dr. Monty during his attack that is not really picked up on.
No, he got away with it.
Yeah. Well, Mulder and Scully arrive at the scene only to find the dead doctor and lots of paper strips. Mulder has figured out that Tooms is off to hibernate for another 30 years, to the only place he's comfortable with, 66 Exeter Street. But Scully lets us know that the apartment building has been torn down, and when they arrive, we find it's now a shopping center. As a neat touch, I kind of like that, actually.
I like it, but at the same time, not a chance this would have been built in the time from that episode to this one.
9 months? How long was Tooms incarcerated for?
I mean, less than that. It's got to be less than 9 months.
It's a fully formed shopping center.
Yeah, with more than one level. Let's say at least 2 levels with an escalator. It's like, Jesus Christ, how fast did they get this thing up? They had to tear down that other building.
Well, you got to imagine that after being the site of a horrific, crime, and the smell that comes out of that nest, there's nothing left to do but tear down the apartment building.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Imagine that they fast-tracked construction. I think that's the only way to get past that particular plot hole.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they search around looking for where he might be. But for some unknown reason, Mulder identifies the space under the escalator as the probable place. And I'm guessing we have a Briggs-like moment of intuition. He's here. That's the only thing I can think of, but I almost wish that they'd called it out a bit more.
Yeah, I don't think we're meant to believe that at all. I think it's just poor execution. But I agree with you. They should have said something.
Yeah, he tunes in on the escalator. It's like, oh, he's there. It's like, what? There's no basement to this place, But okay,
No, it goes from the first floor nest.
Yeah, exactly.
No basement.
Well, and I know that part of the background information with this episode is the escalator is the focal point for the script. Like, they literally thought, oh, this would be a pretty gruesome way to go, to get trapped under an escalator when it was going. And then they, like usual, write the episode backwards from that. So,
and it is everyone's fear, at least once in their life, right?
Yeah. You
From a kid. Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing good comes
I know I did. I always stepped over that lip at the top or the bottom. That was as a little Michael. I'd be like, nope, not getting my feetsies stuck in there.
So you watched the instructional video on how to use an escalator?
I did.
Well, you're a very good student. Mulder strips down to his shirt and, I think he's wearing pants. But anyway, he takes off his jacket and tie. And he goes in to search around. He's got his gun and his flashlight. And he's crawling through this really tight, tunnely space. And he spots the nest at the end of the tunnel. He's shining his flashlight all over it. And he gets close. And he's right in there. He's leaning towards the nest. And Tooms bursts out and attacks him. Mulder flees on his hands and knees. He's chased by Tooms. And Mulder must have dropped his gun somewhere because it's all hands and fists and shoes. And Mulder barely escapes the escalator tunnel. He's helped up by Scully. But Tooms is fast on his heels, and he begins to emerge. And a quick-thinking Mulder starts the escalator, and it pulls Tooms through to his screaming, bloody death.
Yeah.
It's like you were watching it by my
description. I like the
description.
chase scene. I do enjoy the chase scene. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
And you really do feel tension and suspense of will he make it?
Yeah.
Obviously, well. But yeah, I like the way Tooms goes. It's helpless, and the scream is epic. I like it.
Couldn't happen to a nicer villain.
Couldn't happen to a nice guy.
Yeah. It's a nice finale. I will say that it does. There's some problems getting here, but I dig the action scene. It was good.
It does make me question
Oh, wait a second.
how they got out of this legally.
Ooh.
Like, how do they, like, okay, Tooms wound up dead, crushed in an escalator. No one believes anything you're saying about this guy's abilities.
How does this resolve?
Not
How do
looking
you-
good, Mulder and Scully.
Yeah. Well, Tooms was trespassing on the property.
That's true.
And so he's guilty of something. It was an accident, is what it'll happen. Listen, Mulder and Scully got their story straight, is what it is. How this one plays out. He tripped.
Definitely.
He didn't watch the safety video on how to use an escalator, and he fell in. That's how he died.
Well, that's what happens when you build under an escalator.
It's true. Yeah, that's an interesting point. How does that resolve off camera? I don't think the episode really wants you to think about that. Well, the case file on Tooms is closed. Skinner has reviewed it. Skinner asks if the cigarette-smoking man believes it. And for the first time in X-Files history, we have the first words out of the cigarette-smoking man. Of course I do. So, yeah, 4 words that finally let us know how Canadian he sounds, really.
Yeah.
Outside, Mulder is watching a caterpillar cocoon and notes that a change is coming. And when asked how he knows, Mulder replies that he has a hunch, bringing us full circle back to Briggs's comments about trusting your instinct. Oh, and he also mentions that they're going to shut down the X-Files, and I'm sure that won't possibly come to pass. End of episode.
Well, he's wrong about so many other things.
That's true. Yeah.
It can't possibly be true.
Listen, the X-Files are a vital part of the FBI bureaucracy. To close them down would be to... Look, they're a performer. 75%. You don't shut down that action.
How do you shut that down? Yeah.
No, you can't
Can't do
justify
it.
that. I mean, frankly, you should put more bodies onto it. Like, can you imagine what they'd have if they had 4 agents? You could probably push 85% easy. All right, let's finish off with our final thoughts. Mike, what would you like to say about this fine episode that you loved before we started talking about it?
And I still like it. There are issues with this episode. I don't think they intended, I could be wrong, I don't think they intended a sequel at the time, and it's written that way. The problem is we are finding many holes where, at least in this episode, where it doesn't make sense. And I think it's a reflection of, okay, well, we want to bring him back, but we don't know how. And so we've got these plot points, like suddenly there's a 5th body that was hidden that never came up in the original. How is Tooms suddenly able to fit down a toilet drain? There's just stuff that doesn't line up, and it's obvious they were just trying to make it work.
Yeah.
They wanted to bring him back. They didn't have a clean plate or slate to do it. And it sucks because it shows in some pretty nasty ways and unfortunate ways, because it kind of sullies the good name of Tooms. Where, had they left it just alone for 1 episode,
Yeah.
it would have been. And to be fair, no one ever says, I love Squeeze, but oh man, it's unfortunate that they made a 2nd episode because now
True.
Tooms isn't as cool. No one says that, but
Well, I think you remember the good bits.
it does
right?
kind of cheapen it a little bit.
I think you remember the good bits. Like the only thing you're going to remember out of Tooms, the episode, is the escalator death.
Yeah.
I don't think you're
Right.
Maybe you'll get some bits and pieces about the Scully Skinner interaction, which I think were some of the highlights of it, but which is unfortunate because I think it is good material. I think it's just sort of inserted into the wrong episode.
Yeah.
But anyway, please continue if you had more that you wanted to say about it.
Well, I'm just saying, I think overall it's a good episode. It is fun and interesting. And it's always good to see Mulder and Scully working together. I think that's some positive in this episode. And the introduction of Skinner, like you said, absolutely awesome. Love him. I just think it shows that they were trying to make it work. And that sucks. But
to your point, trying to make it work is I think the best way to explain this episode. Like the toilet scene, again, another idea that they had that probably should have been something else. Like that just stretches credulity in a way that the X-Files is usually better at. And the 3D dental computer match is just so cheap. Like,
yeah,
they could have done that so many other ways. And I just don't like that was the end result of Briggs' involvement. You know, he's saying that there's a reason that this body was hidden. I don't understand it. There's something there which connects Tooms, but you know, that is not what it is. It should have been something else, something low tech and simple that didn't need computer graphics and a really tenuous explanation for it. So I didn't like those two bits. I loved Scully and Skinner. Like that whole scene, anything between those two in this episode is just on fire. The case is immaterial at that point. You know, the overarching plot of, you know, the X-Files in danger and Scully's career in jeopardy and things like that. That's interesting, and they do a good job of that when they hit it, but it's a shame that these side points are like the highlight of the episode for me, because to make it work for Tooms, you've got to sort of tumble through so much stuff to get to the payoff at the end.
Yeah. I probably rate it higher than I should have, but it's still fun to me, and I like the episode. But as I said, you know, I'm talking about it with you is bringing it down a few pegs for sure.
Well, and remember, we have some heavy hitters here. Like, it's not like they didn't have talent in the room. No. It's Morgan and Wong. So I maybe they just can't write sequels. Maybe they need to stick with the original material, and then going back to the well. Like, did they write the Squeeze? Did they write the original?
I think so.
It's likely.
I feel like they did.
Yeah, they did. And directed by Harry Longstreet. Oh, Harry.
Yep. Oh, Harry.
So, I mean, they know this material. It's not like they brought in somebody else and had to make do, but I don't know. Maybe they were tapped out. You know, they gave it all in the first, and they didn't expect to go back to it. And then they did, and it was like, yeah, this is what we came up with.
Yeah. I feel like in a weird way they were trying to one-up themselves with what Tooms could do.
Yes. Well, the toilet sequence.
Even if...
For sure.
Yeah, but it's just like, then you're cheapening the first episode.
Yes, because the question is, if he could do it now, why couldn't he do it then? So...
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean...
Well, quick question then.
We can move on.
Because we don't have any user or listener comments on this particular episode. Other episodes where they have gone back to the well and revisited villains, and predominantly that is Pusher with Kitsunagari, and
Pusher,
Donnie Faster with Orizon or something.
Orison.
So we did cover so far Kitsunagari, and I think we agreed also not a great sequel compared to the original.
No, yeah, it definitely doesn't live up to that, but I liked it.
What about Donnie Faster? Did you? Was that a good sequel?
I enjoy it, but it's not the same. I think they give a little bit too much. They put too hard of a stamp on what Donnie is, and they take it in a more direct approach. Whereas in Irresistible, he's a man.
Yeah, he was never anything supernatural. Yeah.
I think that's more terrifying than what he becomes in Orison.
I agree.
For sure.
I agree. Well, I think that is the takeaway, is that the sequels where they revisit the well, and I don't know if there are many other episodes other than the mythology arc where they're constantly sort of teasing out that storyline. I don't know if there are other examples where they go back and review a villain to see whether they do a better job, but certainly those three examples are the biggest, I think.
Well, yeah. And I think that's indicative of, should we do this again? And I think when writers are in that corner, maybe if you're not sure and if you don't have the story, maybe step back.
You don't.
And I'm I'm not going to sit here and say all 3 of the sequels we just talked about suck, because I don't believe that at all.
Oh, no.
I think they're all watchable.
There's some good stuff.
And enjoyable.
There's some good stuff in all of them. I think, in a way, Tooms is the least good of the 3. Like, there's too much unbelievable stuff in Tooms, but it's redeemed by the scenes between Scully and Skinner and some other bits of business. So, as you say, I'd watch it.
All enjoyable, just a little off the mark on this one.
Well, shall we put Tooms in his tomb and wrap this up?
Yes.
Thank you for listening, everybody. That's our episode for this evening, and it's been a delight to share it with you. Mike, do you have anything you want to say to our fine listeners?
I just want to say goodbye, fair listeners, and I hope you enjoy the scene with Mulder and Scully in the car as much as my fluttering heart did. M&S forever. No, I'm kidding. Just kidding. Thank you for listening, and good night.
Night.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast. If you liked what you heard, we'd appreciate a like and subscribe, or ratings and reviews on your podcast app of choice. We appreciate all feedback and would love to hear it. Please visit our Facebook page, The Syndicate, This Is Not Happening, and follow us on Twitter at TXF Syndicate, and join in on the discussions and fun. Also check out Magus Media's other podcast, the Chips Groove Podcast, for fun, in-depth reviews of video game soundtracks of all generations. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming.